Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Age Better, where each week we take a deep dive into all the ways we can feel better, look better, live better, and, age better. I'm your host, Barbara Hannah Grufferman. Can you believe it? This is the 100th episode of Age Better. Yay! To celebrate, we're diving into an incredibly important and relevant topic, the evolution of menopause and midlife women's health. And I invited two extraordinary women to join me, Dr. Margaret Nachtigall, who is a frequent guest on Age Better, and her mother, Dr. Lila Nachtigall, both highly esteemed in the field of women's health, reproductive endocrinology, and menopause. Dr. Margaret Nachtigall is the medical director of Menopause Cheat Sheet and a clinical associate professor at NYU Langone Health. She's not only a renowned figure in women's health with her extensive work in polycystic ovarian syndrome, infertility, and menopause, but also a trusted voice where she educates and empowers women across the country. And joining us alongside her is her mother, Dr. Lila Nachtigall, a true pioneer in the study of hormone therapy, estrogen, and menopause. With an astounding record of over 500 peer-reviewed articles, books, and lectures worldwide, Dr. Lila has shaped the course of women's health through her role as a professor at NYU School of Medicine and way, way beyond. Both Doctors Nachtigall are founding members of the Menopause Society, which until recently was known as the North American Menopause Society. I could go on and on and on about their combined experiences and knowledge and accomplishments, but I think it's a much better idea to get this party started. So pop in your earbuds, plop into a comfy chair, or maybe head out for a heart-healthy walk, and get ready for an enlightening and empowering conversation filled with expert knowledge and very practical advice. And cheers to the next 100 episodes. Yay! Stay tuned.
The Vietnam War, it's over. Your job's just begun.
A new HBO original limited series.
Welcome to the world of spycraft. Strap in.
From executive producers Park Chan-wook and Robert Downey Jr.
What are you concealing?
Based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Viet Thanh Nguyen.
What if I told you that I was a communist spy?
How did you become this?
The Sympathizer, streaming April 14th on Max. Subscription required.
Your brain needs support, and new Ollie Brainy Chews are a delightful way to take care of your cognitive health. Made with scientifically backed ingredients like Thai ginger, L-theanine, and caffeine, Brainy Chews support healthy brain function and help you find your focus, stay chill, or get energized. Be kind to your mind and get these nootropic chews at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 100th episode of Age Better Podcast. I'm so excited to have with me today two incredibly special women. First, we have Dr. Margaret Nachtigall, who is a reproductive endocrinologist at NYU Health, and she's also a frequent visitor to Age Better Podcast. And we also have Margaret's mother, Dr. Lila Nachtigall, who is one of the world's leading experts on hormones and menopause. So, Dr. Margaret, Dr. Lila, thank you so much for joining me to celebrate this incredible episode 100. Thank you.
We're really excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Okay, so I have a lot of questions, 5 to be exact, but Dr. Margaret, we're going to start this with you. So you did follow in your mother's footsteps. Please tell us why and how has her work so far really motivated you, inspired you, and encouraged you to go down the career path that you're currently on? Tell us about that.
Well, I think number one, I always admire my mother and obviously think she's perfect. So I just wanted to do exactly what she did. And I think she is the perfect model of being able to do it all. She helps people constantly. And I watched, even as a young child, I watched how she changed people's lives. And then I also got to witness that as a family, we tended to talk a lot about medicine. And I was very interested in the areas that she was talking about and interested in. She also took us with her on different types of lectures, and I got to hear them. I got to hear her practicing them beforehand, and everything really interested me and inspired me. When I was in elementary school, she came in and did health class. When I was in high school, she came with a group of other doctors to do sex ed. When I was in college, she came and talked about endocrine. So I was just fascinated with this area. When I was in college, my thesis was on hormones and behavior. So it really made perfect sense that when I went to medical school, that I would focus on healthcare that pertained to hormones, to behavior, and women's health is the perfect area to do this. So it was a combination of wanting to be just like her, but also do the same field as her.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And to work together, which was a real added bonus.
Yes, you did for many years. You shared an office. Am I right?
Yes, we're still working together. So it's really fantastic.
Oh, it's wonderful. And I know you just came from teaching a class together too on menopause. So you're a wonderful team. Very, very special. So
Yeah.
Dr. Lila, let's talk about this for a minute. Now, you started, I believe, practicing in the 60s, and the world was a little bit different at that point. Tell us, how was menopause viewed back then compared to how it's viewed now? What differences do you see?
In the 60s, menopause was a bad word. It was, you weren't allowed to speak it. I wrote my first book about hormones and menopause in the early 70s, and they wouldn't let me put menopause in the title. And you really couldn't even say menopause on television or even in a radio broadcast. It was a bad word. Now that's all you hear. And I don't know if it's a lot is that so many more women are living longer after menopause and feel. But I think it's a big awareness and the fact that the women today who are thinking about menopause, going into menopause, even post-menopause, are women who always wanted to be around or better educated. And they want to know about it. They don't want to hide issues.
Or be embarrassed about it. You know, that's a word that comes up a lot when I talk to women.
Embarrassing word. So I think it's funny, but I'm glad that's done. He definitely taught them.
And you've noticed, of course, in the last 2 years in particular, there have been a lot of celebrities who have opened up about menopause. And don't you think that's also helped with the whole discourse, so like made it more acceptable? Like, oh, if she's talking about it, I guess I can too.
Absolutely. Absolutely true. Yeah.
So let's move over, Dr. Lila, another question for you. Let's talk about what is considered the gold standard of menopause treatment, which is hormone therapy, HT. It was the gold standard. Hopefully it's kind of easing back into that spot. I think it has. But there was a study that came out in 2002, which really stopped it from being the gold standard. People stopped taking it. Doctors stopped prescribing it. Talk to us about that, your feelings about that, how you viewed that at that time, and how do you think hormone therapy is kind of being brought back into the discourse now?
Well, it's very interesting because in the 60s and 70s, the gold standard was certainly still estrogen. But women didn't get explanation of the risks or the benefits or their individual need for it. They just got it. They got a prescription for it. It was the age after Feminine Forever that sold millions and millions of copies and said women need estrogen from the cradle to the grave. Well, indeed, some women do, but a lot of women don't. And I think one of the good things about the Women's Health Initiative is it did stop in the tracks and made us really learn to individuals. When it first came out, and they just presented their findings, they didn't break it down to age, they didn't break it down to smokers, they didn't break it down for anything. They just said, overall, women on estrogen didn't do as well as women on placebo, which didn't turn out to be true.
Right.
But that's how it looked. It really both. And women did go off in droves. When I looked at the actual research, first came all the publicity, and then they presented the actual paper with pages and pages of statistics. I saw that it really was 25% of the treated and the placebo women were much older than they were women over 60. And I think 20% were over 70 at the start of treatment. And that's not how we treat women. We treat it usually at menopause or certainly within the next few years. The normal menopause occurs between 45 and 50. So starting women, and many of them who need estrogen, certainly at that point, over 70, I think was a big error in this study. And it's taken so many years and over 150 new scientific papers from that study to get us on the right track. But we did learn from most theories, we learned that the majority of women need estrogen for at least 6. But there are definitely women who should never take it, can't be on it, and we do have to individualize. And I think we have learned from these 20 years and these 150 papers, and we are getting better and better at individualism. Who needs it, how long you need it for, what your dose is, what your route is, and you're getting to really treat much better than we did with them. We also only recently, after all these years, learned the actual cause is hot flushing. And now there's a treatment that's non-hormonal that just gets at those nerves and that cause the flushes for that issue.
And we also just recently, at least I, being a layman, only found out recently in the last year that hot flashes can cause, they're more than just hot flashes. They're more just things that make you uncomfortable, that they can also contribute to heart issues and brain issues and other long-term health issues. So treating hot flashes, we now understand, is even more important than just kind of alleviating a symptom that's really bothersome. So that's really incredible. And, I did mention during the introduction that Dr. Margaret is a frequent guest on the show for sure. Dr. Margaret, I don't think you've ever left an episode without reminding people that you need to have a healthcare provider who believes in you, in personalized medicine, in personalized treatment. And so that it sounds like the one really good thing that came out of that whole 2002 WHI study is that looking at this holistically and at personalized medicine and treatment is a really good thing.
Absolutely true.
Yep. Dr. Margaret, let me get a question to you. So can you give us, we covered some of the symptoms like hot flashes. We referenced heart issues and brain fog and all of that. But can you give us a brief overview of how menopause impacts women's bodies beyond what I call the terrible trifecta, the mood swings, the sleepless nights, the hot flashes. How else does a woman's body get affected by menopause?
Well, just as you said, those are some of the main areas. There are receptors for estrogen just about everywhere throughout the body. And so it's really not surprising that when there's no estrogen, when a person has gone through menopause, that there are going to be symptoms everywhere. Some that you just mentioned, hot flushes, moodiness, trouble sleeping, difficulty finding nouns, particularly, or words that you want to say, dry vaginas, difficulty. So one thing that I think people don't recognize sometimes when you're trying to figure out whether hormone therapy is right for you or not, is that some of these symptoms, just as you mentioned, hot flushes, not sleeping well, not getting adequate sleep, can actually have sequelae later on, such as an increase in cardiovascular disease, an increase in diabetes, and an increase in dementia. So treating those symptoms early and treating them is really important, however you choose to treat. So I think those are the symptoms that we talk about. And we didn't even mention bone.
No, we didn't. I was going to, because I don't think I've ever had an episode with you where we didn't bring up bones, because it's so important to me.
It's so important. The lifestyle and making sure you get adequate exercise and vitamin D is so critical. But also the hormonal environment, and recognizing that without estrogen, there is certainly an increase in bone loss. Right. So I think all of the symptoms that we just talked about, as well as those things that you can't see, that you only recognize later on, is all part of menopause.
Right, exactly. Which actually leads me to my next question to both of you, if you both want to answer, one of you, but are you encouraged by, of course, the increase in public discussion, which we already talked about? Yes, of course. But also the fact that there are some new, Dr. Lila, as you just pointed out, some new medications that are coming down the pike that will help to alleviate some of these more common symptoms. And who knows what else will be discovered and be brought to market that are not HT, that are not estrogen, so non-estrogen products. So what are your thoughts on that? Are you excited about it?
Well, I mean, we always want to have new drugs that work. And the nice thing about the new non-hormonal that works on the nerves and the brain, it's so good for women who can't be on estrogen, who really could use it, but they aren't. The reason to not be informed. So it was always good to be the truth. And we really appreciate that. And I think there are other ones coming out. Even the one that's available works on one receptor, a new one that's going to be approved, I think, in January. It was going to work on three different receptors. So as you say, we're going to see more and more about them. Yes, of course, we'd love to have children. And this gives us children.
And women deserve that. I mean, we all know that. I mean, I think it was only 30 years ago, which is not that long ago, that some of the research behind medications and treatments for various health issues only had men. There were no women who participated. So it's a very kind of a bigger issue, I think, for women's health and the future of especially midlife women's health, that there is more research being done and then more choices being offered. This is really crucial, and we demand it, we deserve it.
Well, I think it's really exciting to see, one, the research increasing in women's health, two, increasing in menopausal health, but three, just the awareness. And I really see it on a day-to-day basis. Not only do you see advertisements at large sporting events for menopausal treatment.
Yeah, during the Super Bowl.
In the taxi ride, there's evidence. So people are really talking about it. And I see it in the office. I see young women in their late 40s who are not menopausal yet, who are coming in to ask, what should I do now to prepare for menopause. And I never saw that before. 10 years ago, that just didn't happen. So I think that this increased awareness is going to help people be healthier as they age, which I know is your philosophy for healthy aging.
Yeah.
And I think this is really the way to do it, to get educated, to be educated, to share the ability to individualize care. I think it's a terrific move for the future.
Yes, really, really wonderful. I'm very excited by what I'm seeing. Very enthusiastic. I'm looking forward to another 100 episodes focusing on all of these new developments. And I know that you'll be back on, and hopefully you'll both be back on. So, Dr. Lila, Dr. Margaret, as we covered our 5 questions already, kind of hard to believe, but as we celebrate this 100th episode, this conversation is not just a reflection of the past, but it really is a beacon to the future, as we just said. And so before we let you both go, I always like to do this. Please give us a few takeaways that you really, really, really want the Age Better audience to remember from this conversation today.
Well, my big takeaway is both of them. If suddenly you're having symptoms, whether you really know you're in menopause or not, anything really that's bothering you can't sleep, your vagina is dry, you're suddenly lost your libido, anything that has changed, that will go for help, because the help is there. And even though so many doctors have to do things more quickly now, they'll always reschedule you. You can always make another appointment to get that help, and you should. That's what I think.
Absolutely.
I absolutely agree with you. I think get the help, don't suffer. And I think get educated, learn, listen to your podcast. Congratulations on your 100th episode.
Thank you so much.
I think continue to learn and take care of your health. Eat well, sleep well, exercise well.
And find a really great healthcare provider. And you know what, Dr. Margaret, you and I always like to point out to go to menopause.org and try to see if you could find a healthcare provider in your area that is certified in menopause, that focuses on menopause, because they do have a list on their website, on the Menopause Society's website.
Yeah,
the North American Menopause Society now is called the Menopause Society.
Yep.
I'm not sure why they changed it. I guess they wanted to make it not just North America.
Right. Yep.
They do have menopause certified physicians in thy area, and you can find someone who specializes. That's probably a good thing to do.
It's really been very helpful. I have seen it change the management in patients that live outside of New York State, that live in California, that live in other areas. It's been extremely helpful.
And also, let's not forget that if you happen to live in an area where there just isn't one, which is very possible, because as we know, one of the issues that we're confronting is that we don't have enough certified menopause trained physicians. So that's a real possibility. So you can go to one of the newer telehealth companies like Electra, Geneve. I mean, there really are quite a few that are out there now. And they do, at least the 2 that I've mentioned, take a close look at the healthcare providers that they recommend before they recommend them. They're really vetted very carefully. Dr. Lila, Dr. Margaret, I know you'll both be back. I can't thank you enough for being with me to celebrate my 100th episode. I'm so excited. Yay. And to everyone listening, to everyone watching, thank you for being with us today. And thank you for being a listener of Age Better podcast. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Age Better podcast, please do a few things. First, share it with all your friends and family. Then, subscribe to Age Better wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, so you never miss a single episode. Finally, if you have ideas for topics you want me to cover in a future episode of Age Better, send an email to agebetterpodcast@gmail.com or reach out to me on social media. Until next time, remember this. We can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Talk to you soon. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.